regional chairman of Business for Britain and wants thereby to see Britain leave the European Union. Simon, hello.
Oh, hi there.
What did you make of Stuart Rose's comment?
Well, I didn't recognise much of the comment over the wages. I mean, I see, well, we have a highly skilled workforce, and I don't see that impacting on the wage of our workforce. I see it more impacting on the low-paid workers, and I think that would be a good thing, to be honest. I don't see anything wrong with it.
But it wouldn't be a good thing if the economy went downhill and there were fewer jobs all round.
Well, no, I think the contrary would be the case. You know, I can only give you my business case on this. And if we were freed from the European Union, this is just our business, we know ourselves that we would be freer to expand, freer to invest in our business because we are so over-regulated.
Yeah, well, the Society of Motor Manufacturers, to take that example, they represent a lot of automotive businesses, don't they? They say 73% of their members want to stay in. So that's quite a compelling piece of evidence too, isn't it?
Well, look, I can only take you back to our business case. We've got a 96-year history. We've exported in nearly 140 countries across the world in our history. And, you know, the reality for us is we can't work in France. Why can't we work in France? Because we're not a French company. You know, we work all over the world, and the regulations that get imposed upon us by the European Union make us less competitive in the world market.
Yes.
And if I just give you one regulation as an example, the construction products regulations, you know, that forces us now to CE mark our product, which means our costs have gone up in the UK market, and it means that our costs have gone up in the world market. And that's just one of a large number of regulations that we don't get a say in.
But there's evidence on both sides, isn't there? I mean, you're in the steel business, and the steel business in this country has suffered a lot from a flood of cheap steel from China. And the business has been looking to the European Union to try to do something about that unfair competition. Now, without that, I know arguably the EU authorities haven't been as good at dealing with it as they might have been. But without that protection, would they be any better off or worse off?
Well, our government would be able to do something about it. It would be able to intervene if it wasn't for the state aid rules that they're under as a member of the European Union. And look, just while we're talking about the steel industry, in 2007, 2008, this is how I got involved in all this nonsense with the European Union. They wanted to take away the opt-out of the working time directive, which would have meant that every working person in this country would have the amount of hours they could work in a week controlled. That would affect their income. And 90% of people on the shop floor didn't vote in a poll that was used in the House of Commons, didn't want any form of restriction. So I think it flies in the face of anything that, you know, the big multinationals like the European Union, you know, there are something like 5 million SMEs in this country that employ about 15.6 million people. And we don't have the voice of these big multinationals. When I take time out of the office to go to London, to go to Brussels, to try and take the case forward, which I've had to do it costs our company quite a lot of money. We just don't have the resources and the lobbying powers of the multinationals that enjoy this European Union.
Yeah. I mean, it is about balance of risk, isn't it, Simon Boyd? When you listen closely to people like, let's say, Phil Hammond, the Foreign Secretary, who's been talking about this in the last 48 hours or so, he can't swear that the British economy would go downhill if we left the European Union. But equally, he says there must be a risk of that. And clearly, there is a risk of that.
Well, I don't see it from our business point of view. Just we have the working time directive. We have the demise of the British standards and the replacement with Euro codes and Euro norms. We have employment regulations that are really time-consuming and far more damaging to employer-employee relations and SMEs. We have health and safety regulation, and we are at the top of our game in health and safety. But it's gone too far, and it's created a pass-the-buck situation in many cases. And, you know, and as I say, where is the single market for us? We cannot work in France.
Okay, good to talk to you, Simon. I have to leave it there. Forgive us for that. Simon Boyd.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.